Hi, and welcome to another edition of Let's Talk with Marcel. Today, I have an extraordinary guest. This gentleman comes from the Fairfield, Newtown area. He's been an amazing financial advisor to over dozens of Fortune 500 companies. Over 25 years corporate strategy and management consulting. I'm happy to talk to him today about his blog and his blog writing, Retire Creatively. Let's talk Dick McEvoy.
All right, let's do it.
How you doing, Dick?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks, Marcel.
The interesting thing is you and I met a few months ago,
Right.
and I was captivated because you are a blog writer along with everything else.
Right.
So just tell me, how did this all start for you? Tell me a little bit about you, how you started with your financial advising and what you're doing today.
Okay. Well, I started in corporate America. I did that for about 10 years, working for General Mills and Richardson Vicks. I then went in my early 30s, went into strategy consulting. So more than financial planning, it's the entire strategic plan for Fortune 500 companies and their divisions. I did that for nearly 25 plus years. I retired 7 years ago now, and I realized that I had plenty of time on my hands. I've got a lot of interests, but one of the things that I talking to others and helping, whether it's a new company get started, whether it's a new client trying to get in shape, I like helping people get to their goals. So I started writing this blog, and I needed to understand, well, how do I get the blog out there so people can listen to me or read it? And I found you, and we started talking a couple months ago.
Great. Well, the thing about it is you've had over 25 years of
Consulting
experience.
Right.
Tell me what was the hardest obstacle that you had?
Well, I started fairly young. I was in my early 30s. So one of the obstacles was going into a Fortune 500 company, talking with either a CEO or a CEO of a division, and having them look at me and say, hey, basically they're generally in their 50s and I'm in my early 30s. They have people listen to me. But quickly, strategy becomes answering a couple of key questions. What business am I in? Who's my key target audience? What does that target audience, how do they define value, and how do I deliver that? Once you get that down in any industry and you start understanding, or you have your client understand that you quickly can get grasp of their company and their competitors, they start listening. So the biggest obstacle at first was my youth. But
great. So now you, of course, are not as young as you were.
Absolutely.
And you retired.
Right.
And your blog is Retire Creatively.
Correct.
And with this blog, you're basically taking some of the years of experience that you've had.
Right.
And focusing on 5 different levels that I've heard. Right. Basically.
Right.
So, you look at it as a Nautilus.
I do. Yeah, the average person hasn't really thought about retirement yet. And what my objective is to not only get you to understand retirement isn't just financial. Absolutely, you have to be financially secure. And if you're not there yet, we can help you understand how to take the steps to get you there. But beyond financial security, one of my first obstacles when I did retire was I was all of a sudden alone. I didn't have all my buddies from work. So what else? Let's grow into retirement, and that can be through better health and fitness. It can be finding those things that make your life spark. What really gives it for you? Whether it could be cooking, it could be painting, it could be reading, traveling, whatever. Find that spark and find a way to get there.
Wow, that's exciting. And the thing about that whole aspect of retirement, I mean, when do you really want to retire?
Well, The way I think about it is retirement is just a word. It is just the next phase of your life. The old type of definition of retirement was you stop work and you sit in your chair and you watch TV. That is rare today. No one does that to do it. You want to grow into what is next for me. The Boston Globe every day, and I got to start to read those as a gentleman at Harvard who was 94 years old, and he was auditing a French class and said, "Why?" And I love the guy's answers. He said, "Why not? You're 94, you're still learning. I believe that you should continuously learn and grow throughout your life." So retirement is just, what is my next phase? What am I going to do next?
So how do you begin? How do you begin?
Well, you first look at your financial structure. You need to have security. And, nearly half of baby boomers today don't have hardly anything in their retirement. Start with a budget. You'd be amazed at how just by putting together a budget and seeing where your money goes every month and seeing what's left over, and you'll see where you're kind of wasting money, because we all do. After just 3 or 4 months, you start to feel a little bit more secure. I can do this. And I don't care if it's just putting $50 or $100 away. Now you know that you can start living on less than you're doing. So find a way to get your financial structure more sound today. Then start to educate yourself. Start to learn how to invest. And you're not trying to beat the market. The S&P 500 gives you 8% a year for the last, 60, 70 years. That's plenty. Just put it there and let that money grow while you're doing some other things. Find out what it is that strikes your fancy. What is it in your life that gives you excitement? Have you always wanted to build a better garden? Have you always wanted to travel to Paris? It's one of my favorite cities in the world. But it could be traveling to Maine. It doesn't have to be exotic. It can be, an hour away. But find out what it is that gives your life more spark, and find ways, start structuring ways to get you there.
Well, so that's improving your future position, right?
Today's position and your future position, yes.
And so then what do you do after that?
You now know that you weren't probably as prepared as you would like to have been. Start right now and educate your kids.
Really? Educating your kids?
Oh, absolutely.
Why educating your kids?
You don't want them to be in the same predicament you are. And I don't care if you've got $1 million or if you've got $20,000. You could have been better off if someone had taught you the power of compounding.
What is that?
The power of compounding is that your money is going to grow over time. The sooner you start putting some money in to an account, an S&P 500 or something of that sort, the longer it has to compounding to grow. For each of my kids when they were 18, I sat them down with their best friend and I gave them a quick couple questions. I said, Marcel, if you put $2,000 a year in from 18 to 30, I want you to put it in for the rest of your life, but just $2,000 a year, that's for 13 years. And for some reason you have to stop. I hope you don't, but you have to stop. And then I talk to your best friend and I say, Shannon, you put $2,000 a year, but you start at 31 and go till 68. So you've put money in for 37 or 38 years. You've put money in for 12 or 13 years. At 68, who has the most money? You both put it in the same S&P 500, which gets you about 8%. The average person thinks, well, the person who put $2,000 a year for 37 years is going to have more than the person who put $2,000 a year for 13 years. It's not that case. Because this person, Marcel, you started at 18, you are going to have double, nearly double. You're going to have about 800 grand versus their 440 grand. So that's the power of compounding, because you have longer time for it to compound and to grow. It's all the better. Had you put the $2,000 a year from 18 all the way to 68, you would actually have $1 million too. And so you teach your children today, and maybe you can even help them by matching a little bit. Give them a couple extra $100 at the end of the year so that they put their own little 401, not a 401 because they're not with a company, but an IRA, and get started. Get started today. If nothing else, teach them how to balance their checkbook. Teach them some of your basic fundamental financial IQ. Improve that for them.
Very good. So when we talk about our Nautilus, and I have the diagram of our Nautilus,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to show this to everybody here. So this is the Nautilus stick.
Right.
And so we just talked about improving your future position today.
Yes.
And then, second, educating
Your
your
kids.
family.
Right. So that they're better off than you are today. They're better off when they get to your age or thereabouts.
So, working with your Nautilus,
Right.
you have a third section, which is achieving excellent health and fitness at any age.
Right.
So tell me a little bit about that.
Okay. Well, let's say that the first two things, you get yourself financially secure and you get your kids planning their own lifetime, so they're a bit more secure than you are. What's next? If you don't have your health and fitness, you can't enjoy those next 20 years of retirement. So let's get yourself healthier than you've been. And let's not try to be the college athlete again. Let's just get yourself healthier. 80% of it's nutrition. So start eating better. And we can help you learn how to do that. But so you start eating a little bit better and start getting some exercise. And it can start by walking. Walk 20 minutes a day, 3 or 4 times a week. But we start to get ourselves healthier and more fit. And once you start feeling better, you're ready to take on more that life has to offer.
So, again, we say, first, improving
your own financial position.
Your own financial position.
Right.
Second, educating.
Improving your kids.
Your family.
Yep.
Third,
get yourself healthier.
Get yourself healthier.
Right.
You got to start somewhere.
Exactly.
You might as well start today.
Right.
Getting yourself healthy.
Yeah.
And then what do you do for the fourth thing?
Okay, so the next thing is where you really want to grow into your retirement. Every one of our retirements should be unique to ourselves. I happen to love learning languages, and I paint, and I do some other things. So for me, the spark that gives me real life, I light up when I go to a museum. I light up when I hear Andre Bocelli sing. So there are things that just make me feel wonderful. Find out what that is for you. One of my college roommates, his favorite thing to do is gardening. I go to his house and he'll show me his garden for 2 hours if I'll let him. So find out what it is that you love and then get yourself into it. It could be bird watching. It could be going for walks. It could be anything.
The exploring your creativity and the spark. Now, is that what really sparked your idea of retire creatively?
Well, that's where the words came from. Way back when I was in college, I grew up poor. I had a wonderful family, but we had absolutely no money. And when I was a freshman in college, one of my philosophy courses was asking, describe your ideal person. And for me, I didn't realize at the time, but you're really talking about who you are in the future, who you'd like to be. And I said, I think the unique and ideal person is someone who has balance, even at 17. They have a family that they love and have a wonderful group around them. They have a job that is makes them feel good. It's anyway, it makes them excited to go to work every day. They have health and fitness. Even back when I was 17, I thought you always should be healthy and fit. And then they have some kind of creative spark, whatever it is. And during your life, each year you find some way to try to balance that. It's not 25% for each, but somehow to balance so you go through life. I immediately looked at going to college, and I thought about applying to Rhode Island School of Design for art. I didn't want to be poor. Not that artists have to be poor. I was afraid I would be poor. So I went to Brown University, which was right next door. I got a good education. I played soccer, but I could take courses at RISD. So even then I was planning. It's finding that the way I look at retirement now is going forward and what is my next life going to be like. I was thinking that even when I was 17. What is my life going to be like? What would I like it to be like?
You know, it's interesting. You used the word poor. And you said, well, you grew up poor. Now, we think about people that are disadvantaged.
Right.
And living on the street,
yeah.
living, that are homeless. And we think of that as poor.
Right.
Even in this country, though, I mean, that's not really poor?
Oh, no, there's all levels.
I mean,
Yeah.
so when you say the word poor, I mean, it sort of has certain, feelings that are expressed when you say that. But, like, how did you grow up? I mean, what are you saying that, you weren't as, your family wasn't as fortunate as some people that might have been,
Right.
But tell me a little bit about that.
And there's all levels of poverty, and I learned that very early on in college. I'm one of 9 kids. I'm second oldest of 9 kids. My dad's best year ever was $13,000. That was his income.
And what year was that?
In 1971. And he died in 1972 when I was still in college. So no one had yet graduated from college. There were 7 little ones back at home. There were times when we didn't have heat and we didn't have really enough food. I got to college and I was not complaining, but I was mentioning this, and I had this kid from Bedford-Stuyvesant who basically said, "You don't know what the F you're talking about." And he said, "I didn't have running water. I didn't have electricity. We had rats as big as your dog. So you don't know what poverty." And that's when I realized. And even he compared to homeless. So there's all levels of poverty. I just didn't have much, but I still had privilege that I could go to a good school, and I had 2 parents that loved me, so I was fine.
So you were rich.
In many ways.
In many ways.
In many ways, right.
So we look at poverty and the word poor. So you weren't disadvantaged.
Right.
But at the time period, in 1971, your dad making only $13,000 a year.
Right.
He may not have felt he was poor, but he was struggling to keep a family together. Is that what you're saying?
He was struggling to feed the family and to have heat in the house. We didn't always have heat.
Yeah.
And the end of my freshman year, I left college, and my university said, "You're on probation. You can't come back until you pay what your family was supposed to have donated toward or provided for you for your freshman year, and prepay that for your sophomore year because you didn't pay it."
So how did you do that?
I never let my parents see that letter. I went to Cape Cod, which is near where I live, and I got a job 72 straight days, and I got a different job 72 straight nights, and I worked every single day and night of that summer. And I made, at the time, it was a couple $1,000s, which sounds like nothing today, but at $3 an hour, that was a lot of hours.
Yeah.
But I did it. I went back to school and
for that whole summer.
For that whole summer.
And what did you do that summer?
I worked at a restaurant where I set up the restaurant. It took me a couple hours every day, and the whole thing was, I think there are maybe 90 or 100 seats. Set the tables, clean the restaurant, have it ready to go by 5 o'clock, and then I would come back at night and I would park cars for the next 5 hours. But I was a kid and I was on the Cape, so even at 11 o'clock at night, I used my tip money to go out and have fun, and I got up the next morning and
did it all
again, 72 straight days.
So that's what age 17 to 19, somewhere then. So you went back to college, you paid the bill.
Right.
You didn't tell your parents.
They never knew.
So and then you became successful. What was your first job like?
Oh, no, my first job was not successful. I graduated Brown University, so it's an Ivy League school. At the time in 1973, jobs were tough. So I already had a school payment, I already had a car payment I had to make, so I took a job managing a restaurant, a steakhouse, until I could keep looking for other jobs and working for, I found a job working for a toy company. But for the first year or so, I was working at a goofy job that had nothing to do with my education.
What did your education have? What did you?
I had a BA in psychology, and later I got an MBA in finance and marketing.
Okay. So then you end up working for Fortune 500 companies?
Well, the first 3 years in between college and graduate school, I did these different jobs, and I got a great job working for the president of a Colorforms toy company. my colleague.
Colorforms?
Colorforms toys.
Tell us, because people might not know what colorforms
Oh,
are.
the little vinyl plastic stick-on toys.
Yeah. Vinyl plastic stick-ons.
Yeah, it was
colorforms. They were a big thing in the 70s.
You know, if you go to the Modern Art Museum in New York and you go to their store, they are in the Modern Art Museum because it was such a unique toy from 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s. Yeah, so I worked for that gentleman. He was a recluse, a wonderful, wonderful man, and he knew I was creative, so he said, come and invent stuff for me. And I could do anything I wanted. I just invented stuff.
What was your favorite thing?
Well, the first thing I invented for him was, we weren't married yet, but my girlfriend, who is now my wife, was cooking in our little apartment, and the cookbook was blowing in the wind. And so I drew a frying pan. I cut it out of a cardboard thing and took her cookbook down, put two little circles on the frying pan, and put a little grommet in the middle so it would hold it, made a little cutout, and abbreviated 12 recipes on each side of the frying pan, drew a little chef's hat and a little mustache and called it Chef's Time Cooking Wheel. And I hung it by her fridge. I said, what do you think? Because now she could look at her recipe without having any blowing around. Took it to Harry, the president. He loved it, and we ended up, back then there was there were two big chefs, Julia Child and James Beard. James Beard put his face on it and became the James Beard Cooking Wheel. So,
interesting.
You know, from my head to the market.
That's really cool.
We made a couple percent profit on it.
Yeah.
Great.
Really?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
It was fun.
So you have a lot of experience in life and a lot of things that you can help people with your blog.
Right.
What do you intend to do to help the people with?
Well, again, get them financially secure. Find ways, and I don't care what level you start at. We can help you get started and help you feel more secure over the next several months, over the next couple of years. Help you to understand how to educate your kids. Because right now, if you don't know what you're doing, you can't educate your kids. We can help you educate your kids. I was a Division I college athlete, and I trained my whole life, and I became a personal trainer because I enjoyed training and exercising. So I can help people understand how to get physically fit. I'm 68, at any age. So we would help them become healthier and more fit, and then find that way to get your spark. I was talking to a guy at the gym who loves to cook, and he found a place, and not terribly expensive, he found a chef in Italy who would let him come and live with him and learn to cook. He was already a pretty decent cook, but now he lived with this guy for 4 months and improved his cooking capabilities. Just for himself. He wasn't trying to get a job. He was just, I want to cook better. I love that. So it's find that spark, and we can help you find your spark. And again, it could be bird watching, it could be gardening, it could be anything.
And then, once you have all that in
Right.
place,
Right.
what is the real covenant?
Be thankful for what you got. And you start, I was thankful at 17 when the kid from Bedford-Stuyvesant made me realize I wasn't poor. You know, compared to him and even compared to others. Realize what you do have. No matter what you have more than so many others, and find ways to give back. And it's just, it could be your time. I love little babies. The idea of you can go to, you have to sign up and be accepted, but you can go to hospitals where you can hold little babies, because some babies are born preemie and their parents have to go back to work. And that poor little preemie might be in bed in the incubator or the ICU for a couple of months before they can go home. They need to be cuddled. And the idea of just going and holding babies for a couple hours a day is, to me, thrilling. But find whatever it is that gives you your life extra spark.
And then
and
be
go
blessed
after it.
about it.
And be blessed about it. So you're giving back. This is one way of giving back your time. But if you have a little bit extra money, then my wife rescued a dog. You can do so many things for so many people.
Volunteering, giving your time
Yep.
as a volunteer.
Right. Your expertise. You can teach a little bit. Teach reading. Teach English as a second language. There's a plethora of things that you can do to help others. Find out what it is that drives you.
Fantastic.
Mm.
Well, What a great experience today. We've seen it all. A way to improve your financial stability. A gentleman that has gone from rags to riches, given his expertise on the internet with his blog, spending the time to give you his way of focusing on 5 different tactics. Let me tell you, in this world, the most beautiful thing that you can experience is a way of feeling that you're blessed. So you have an opportunity at this time to do that. Thank you, Dick.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.